Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Hi, my name is Mandy Hopkins, and I have been a member here at Eastside for 20 years this month. I'd like to tell you my story. It probably begins like very many of your stories, where I grew up in a Christian home, a Christian family. We were at church every Sunday. I went to a Christian school, and my entire family went to church together. My grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, and we always went out to church lunch every Sunday after church. In my mind, it was the perfect world. I had the perfect family, the perfect life. All of that changed and came to a halt the summer before my freshman year of high school, when my parents decided that they were going to get a divorce. It was something that I did not see coming. I don't think my brother saw it coming. So there's a little bit of a shock there. I remember just even not having a lot of friends that had even been through this, not knowing where to turn. I did have a Sunday school teacher, Miss Melanie Hicks, who was wonderful, and she's someone that I turned to during that time. But I do remember just questioning God. Years before that, when I was 8 years old, I had prayed and asked Jesus to be Lord of my life. And I had been following him, and I wanted to live my life for him. And through middle school, the same thing. I remember the "What Would Jesus Do" bracelets, and always wanting to make the right choices that would honor the Lord. And then when my parents got divorced, I just remember just a lot of questioning why. And at some point during all of my questions to God, I remember having a very clear moment of, I can choose one of two paths. I can choose to trust God, even though I don't understand this, and it's heart-wrenching and it hurts, or I can just stay bitter and angry for the rest of my life. And I mean, I even remember as a 15-year-old, a ninth grader, thinking, which way do I want to go? Do I want to be angry and bitter, because that's not going to change the situation? Or am I going to trust God? And the verse that he gave to me in that time was Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purposes. And I knew I loved the Lord, and I knew that he was still real, even though I was hurting. And so I started clinging to that part about that things will work for good. And I think initially I thought good meant that my family would be restored, that everything would go back to the way it was. And in fact, this divorce had really kind of split not just our immediate family, but my extended family as well. In my heart, I thought the good was going to be that everything was fixed the way I wanted it to be fixed. God used those years to really draw me to him, to trust in him when I could not fix things and could not solve the problem. And he showed me things that he brought good out of a bad situation. One of the biggest things that I saw in that was I lived with my dad, and every morning I remember seeing him in his bedroom reading his Bible. I knew the hurt he was going through, and to see him reading was just a reminder to me that he's hurting too, and he's going through this, but he's trusting in God as well, and I could trust him. This time I became a lot closer to my dad than I think I would have been. Eventually, both my parents remarried, and so I gained more siblings. I have 2 stepbrothers and their wives and wonderful families, and then I have a half-brother who now is married and has a little 1-year-old. And so I've learned that we're going to have bad things happen in our lives, no matter what. But we can look for the good that God is going to use. And I think even during this pandemic, we can look for the good and the ways God is going to use us in hard times, and the blessings he will still give us, even though things aren't the way we wanted them to be. Another wonderful thing that God taught me during these trying years of my life was the power of prayer. My extended family even was broken through this, and I prayed for all through high school and through my first year of college that God would restore those broken relationships that came out of this. And it was a lot of prayer year after year. And you just sometimes question, does God hear me? And I know growing up I heard, God always answers yes, no, and wait. And this was a wait, and it was a long wait. And 5 years later, God did restore my family, and He fixed some of those broken relationships, even to the point that today we can have a big family birthday party, and all sides of my family can be there, and we can be at peace with each other. So God is in the job of restoring families as well and answering prayers. Going through such a hard time in high school made me really want to cater towards teenagers and maybe reach out to them, because I know your teenage years are not easy no matter what. Because those years were such formative years for me and they really solidified my faith in God, I wanted to be able to use that to help others who may go through some of the same situations that I've been through. God led me into teaching. I knew I always wanted to be a teacher from the time I was 5 years old, but God really pushed me into working with teenagers, which is when I decided to become a high school teacher, which I did for 5 years. And now I teach at Eastside Christian School, which is a huge blessing to be here, teaching 5th through 8th graders and getting to share my faith with them. Not only do I do that, but I work with the youth here at church. And again, I work with the 9th grade girls now. They were 6th graders when I started with them. But God has always allowed me to work with teenagers who I hope I can connect with and share some of my story with them, in hopes that they can see the power of prayer and how God works for our good in all things. My name is Mandy Hopkins, and this is my story.